Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. What's with all the haters? Give me a break. This episode is pretty fun. Relax, everyone.
No. Hey, everyone.
Oh, come on.
Welcome to this episode, the last episode of season 2 of the original series on yelling at gaseous anomalies. Hi, I'm your host, Captain Matt Ross, and I'm here with my very excited and singing XO, Mike Pontone. How we doing, Mike?
Not bad, all things considering. The summer in New York is bubbling and hot, and
Yes.
I can think of nothing better than pairing this sexy, fun episode with a ridiculous premise, which I understand why Trek people don't like it. But man, not bad. It's another day with my captain, Matt Ross, and going through Trek. And my God, I can't believe we're at the end of season 2, Captain.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of wild, and your assignment, should you decide to accept it, is to watch Assignment Earth. There you go. Another Desilu show making reference to Mission Impossible. But yeah, it's been a great time for this last year, and I can't believe also it's the end of season 2. Don't worry, we will be back for season 3. We got the animated series, Next Gen, and the rest. So we'll go through it. But tonight, we have the thrill of talking Assignment Earth. That's our homework assignment. It is not well liked. I am one of the ones that don't well like it as well. It was supposed to be
Whatever,
a.
you
It was
hater.
supposed. I'm not a hater. It was a spin-off idea. It's more like they trying to, or they is Gene Roddenbery trying to glom an idea onto Star Trek, which was iffy at the time. They were
A
thinking of being
backdoor
canceled.
pilot.
It's exactly correct. Spin-off, by the way, was a new term. There are lots of shows out there that have spin-offs, and this was just another attempt out there to do it, but it is a backdoor pilot. That is correct.
Quick dip into history of television. I dare say that the most successful spinoff would probably be Frasier, right? And I think that the only thing
Probably.
that comes close would be Mork and Mindy, which was indeed, I believe, a spinoff from Happy Days.
Yes, it was a spin-off from Happy Days, just where the character was, with having Robin Williams just pretty much ad-lib the entire show. But I mean, another spin-off is like Patrick McGowan's The Prisoner, which is from UK. The Danger,
What?
yeah, The Prisoner was considered a spin-off of Danger Man, believe it or
Huh.
not. And Steve McQueen, who you thought was in this episode, was
Could have
also
sworn it. Mandela
but
effect.
that's right. He was in Wanted Dead or Alive, which is a spin-off of Trackdown, another Western. So you have a lot of things in here that this could be. But this backdoor pilot is an idea of having like a group of aliens guiding humanity. That's the basic story on this. And, you know, when you look at Roddenberry's later work, you wonder if that was always in the back of his head. He has a couple of a couple of shows, like a TV show called Planet Earth or Genesis 2 or the Questor tapes with people on a quest to try and make things right. It's almost kind of quantum leapish sounding, but that's what it is. Well, I get it that you like this a lot. What's your general impression, or have you seen this before this episode?
I've not ever seen this. I saw like a clip. I remember seeing one clip of Terry Garr going into the portal, which I always thought was kind of interesting. And I really dug that, like, the technology. There was a lot of good stuff going on with this episode, Captain. The technology was accomplishing similar goals, but different. Like, a lesser sci fi writer would have had Gary Seven having his own transporter, and it would look just like the transporter on Star Trek, right? It would function the same way on the Enterprise. But like, no, this is different technology that happens to be doing something similar, where it's
That's
like
true.
it's a portal and it looks different. It has that kind of like fog reverse star thing going on. And it's not just an anywhere thing where you have a technician. It's like you open a door, you do some stuff, and then you can walk through it and you get to a different place. It almost reminded me of that the IRA episode of the TNG.
Oh, the high ground?
Yeah,
No.
when they had the weird transporter that like tore a hole in the fabric of reality.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I actually like that episode a lot.
Mm.
This episode, I mean, I like the concept of this idea behind it. I just don't particularly think it's a Star Trek episode. It's more that pilot more than anything else. They just happen to have Kirk, Spock, and Scotty in it, and actually the entire crew for I would say about 8 seconds. It's like, oh, we got to pay them all, and that's why they seem to be in there. I do like Robert Lansing as Gary Seven, who's Supervisor 194. We don't actually know who the heck he is. Just at this moment, I'm going to mention there are a lot of good IDW comics out there that talk about it. And in the Eugenics War book series, Gary Seven and Roberta Lincoln are actually involved in that as well. So that's their many unique and fun adventures that they have that Spock kind of hints at towards the end. But that's just to sell the idea. This was a idea that NBC was actually interested in. Humorously, Gene Roddenbery decided not to show it to NBC at first, since they were giving him a hard time on Star Trek. He began to shop it around to other networks because the writing was on the wall for Star Trek. Even though Star Trek was always number two, and in some cases number one on the ratings and the Nielsen ratings, NBC just didn't know how to market or know what to do with it. And they always put it in the death slot, which was Friday nights, but it was very popular, which created its third season. But that's a story for another time. In the meantime,
So wait, stop talking,
hmm?
Captain. Please, let me. I gotta get. Where's the phaser? Set the stun. Um, I have questions for you. Where the hell? I didn't miss it. Who's doing this with Gary? Like, where did Gary come? Who? Why? He was just an Earthling, and he got recruited by these some sort of higher beings to assist humanity. But is there an origin ever as to how he came to do that, or what he was doing before he got recruited?
Nope, not at all. The only way you could read about that is considered apocrypha, which is in the IDW
Well,
comic in the fifth year.
give me the
Well,
IDW. Like, what was he doing? Was he
well,
like? I imagine it was like a private eye or a
no, he
FBI
wasn't.
agent.
He was just a young kid who was recruited at a time out of time and taken by a group called the Aegis, and they train him and make him idyllic. And he's gone through various times. He shot Duke Ferdinand that started World War I. He advised Genghis Khan. He did a whole bunch of things back and forth. He's very long lived and
So
or
wait,
lived.
how long? But he's just a man, right?
Yes, he's been modified by this alien race. He's over 6,000 years old, according to the comics. So were the other
Yeah,
two agents. One nine,
yeah.
yeah. So I mean, that's the
Okay,
idea
so
behind it.
yeah, I don't like it as much because that is like a little bit too close to obviously Doctor Who, which everything this has given us clear Doctor Who vibe. Companion, attractive female companion, traveling through space and time. But I really dig his energy as just being a man. You know what I mean? He's
Yes.
just a dude who's doing what a dude is capable of doing. He's more just kind of fearlessness and open mindedness is like his power. And there are a couple of different uh, characters in fiction that I've always loved that have fit this bill. Like, did you ever read any John Constantine comic books?
No, actually, I never did. Everyone says they're really great, but I never
Yeah,
read
well, I
them.
mean, like he's just an English dude who learned magic, so
Hmm.
he is just. It's not so much that he's particularly skilled at it more than the average person. He just has a lot of tolerance for the weird. And same with what's his name? I love Star Lord. Star Lord's like my favorite from the Avengers universe because he's
Okay.
just a dude who's also just down and he was raised in this, so it doesn't bother him as much. He's just doing things with weird creatures and aliens. Anyway, thank you very
Mm.
much for indulging me.
Oh, no, no worries. I just like the fact that he is very slick. It's got a spy feel, a 60s spy feel, because he's in that Brooks Brothers suit. So I like that. The Doctor Who vibe also, with his sonic screwdriver, that servo, as they call it over there, the pen. I think actually kind of funny is that they take him to security after he suddenly beams aboard the ship, and they don't search his pockets or anything. And they just, what is that? A pen? I guess that's okay. But let me just
Mm,
read you the summary of it,
please.
if you don't mind. It says this is for the summary for the press release of February 27th, 1968. By the way, it's written by Art Wallace and Gene Roddenbery and directed by Mark Daniels, and I would say ably so. The Enterprise crew returns to the 20th century to learn how the Earth survived 1968 and nearly witnesses the destruction of the world in Assignment Earth. A 20th century man, Gary Seven, guest star Robert Lansing, who has been living on another planet, appears aboard the Enterprise and informs Captain Kirk that Seven's mission is to prevent world holocaust by stopping the United States from launching the first warhead. So that's a quick summary of it. It's actually humorous. Again, I know it's my big word of the month is humorous. Is that they presage the Star Wars or the SDI program before it actually happened, launching nuclear missile platforms to orbit the Earth. That's kind of like the Reagan era Star Wars initiative. You remember that? Oh no, wait, you weren't here yet, were you?
Not
No.
quite.
There you go again.
Yeah. So it's kind of like Star Wars, the missile defense program before Star Wars had it. But that's the basic plot. You know, the Enterprise intercepts a transporter beam. They're trying to figure out what the deal is with Gary Seven. I kind of like that a little bit. They don't know what to do. They're like, "What do we do?" But the fact that the Enterprise is there at all, I find
That's the
ridiculous.
biggest problem. And again, this is why I hate it. I mean, no, I hate completely awful writing that starts and ends completely wrong. I'm like, you guys could have used one sentence to explain it more than on an historical mission. How about, can I give you my pitch?
Sure.
There's something destabilizing happening to the space time continuum, and it's rippling throughout the space time continuum. And their scientists have tracked it. The Federation has tracked it to this one moment in time that, for some reason, is the source of the destabilization. So even though it's risky, they go back in time to investigate, and that's when they meet Gary Seven. So it's not just coincidental, because, like, why were they there?
Our mission, historical research. We are monitoring Earth communications to find out how our planet survived desperate problems in the year 1968.
Yeah, they decided to go explore 1968, you know, the year that this episode's being filmed in, and to discuss the events of the time. So it's kind of like what you're describing, though, is City on the Edge of Forever, but with
Yeah,
the added element of Gary Seven. They could have even done that, gone back to the Guardian of Forever, and kind of traveled back in time somehow. In fact, there's even a comic where there's a larger Guardian of Forever where they could fly the ship through. Then they could go back to 1968. But this is a little ridiculous. Yeah, we just use that time travel slingshot effect. Of course, they also use that in Star Trek 4, but it seems more plausible because, we don't have this weird interception and you never hear of Assignment Earth ever again. They do use this one other time. The first time was accidental. When they go back and they capture that Air Force pilot, tomorrow is yesterday, and
yes,
then
yes, that's awful.
yes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what this is. I just don't like that one little bit. I do like that, like you do. I also like that cooler purpley beaming effect. Did you like the effect of when Gary Seven escapes the Enterprise and beams into his office? I really like that little bit. Although you have to wonder why no one really complained that the cat ran away from the conference room for them to beam down. Hey, Spock, the cat's running away. Yeah, it is, Captain. Thanks.
What a lovely animal, Captain. Find myself strangely drawn to it.
Just that is a little weird. But they get to that office, and you see the Beta 5 unit, which is actually a redressing of the M5 unit.
M5.
Did you have any complaints about that, or did you thought that was kind of neat?
What? What are you
You know,
talking about?
the M5 unit, the Beta 5 unit, the computer.
I am a Beta 5 computer capable of analytical decisions.
The computer when they open the door.
I don't know what M5 means. I'm sorry.
M5 from the Ultimate Computer. It's the same
Oh,
computer. Yes,
okay.
that. It's
Yes,
the same. It's a redressing of the M5 computer prop. I'm just saying. Did you notice? Obviously not.
I did not. By the way,
Okay.
what did you think of all the exterior reused shots that they got from stock footage Emporium
Yeah,
of
there's a
the
sure.
space rocket?
Yeah, there sure are a lot of stock footage shots out there. That actually comes from NASA. It's also the Saturn V rocket. They wouldn't need anything that powerful to get to low Earth orbit, but it's still neat to look at. NASA was at first, or actually Gene Roddenbery was at first concerned because they were talking about launching weapons into space when the space weapon ban had just gone into effect, where no country will use space for weaponization or weaponized space, and they were afraid NASA would drop them, much like the way Gene Roddenberry was dropped by the Marines for a episode exploring race relations in his TV show called The Lieutenant. So in this one, they were afraid NASA would drop him, but NASA said, "Okay, we'll give you some shots." So there you go. I do like those shots of the Saturn V. I think the Saturn V is actually one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But that's a lot there. I do like the fact that you see all that weird stock footage of like the rockets, the outside, and obviously this is a set in the Paramount lot for Manhattan, you know. And then
Yes, of course.
we meet Roberta Lincoln in her pink orange dress
Hey,
with
man.
played by Terry Garr.
God, it was so amazing to like see Terry Garr shaking herself. And this is 1968 that's aired, right?
Yes.
8 years earlier, in 1960, it would have been the scandal of the century. Like Twilight Zone, my beloved Twilight Zone ran from 1959 to 1964. That's 4 years ago. 4 years ago from now is 2021. That's like yesterday. Like it was you cannot de-emphasize the power of the sexual and the racial revolution that occurred in such a short period of time.
Well,
Anyway,
they did make her dress
fascinating.
really short. They did make her dress really short. In fact, Terry Garr said every time I turned around, they wanted to make it shorter and shorter. Gene Roddenberry kept telling Bill Theis, make it shorter, shorter, and shorter. And she's like, it's a little short enough. This was actually Terry Garr's first role, a real role anyway. And after this did not get picked up, she got into something you might have heard of called Young Frankenstein.
Hello. Would you like to have a roll in the hay? It's fun. Roll, roll in the hay.
That's it's a Mel Brooks film. It's actually hilarious. I recommend everyone see it. Here we are. We got this alien race more interested in protecting Earth. This idea, there's no real general enemy. I guess you could say the enemy is within ourselves.
Hey, listen, I always love a Star Trek story without an enemy. Like to quote my beloved Rich Evans and Mike Stokasa, they kind of resent Wrath of Khan because it normalized the concept of a supervillain in Star Trek. I mean, come on, man, you're in space. There are so many things that are other than supervillains that are fascinating. I mean, one of my favorite Star Trek pieces of anything of all time is Voyage Home, which doesn't really have a villain. And
it's just
I love
ourselves.
Cause and Effect. Yeah.
It is just ourselves. That's what I do like. Well, cause and effect, there is no enemy. It's more like environment.
Yeah, like a good environmental hazard that they're trying to break out of, I think is fantastic. Come to think of it, though, yeah. See, ironically, my favorite DS9, it was only villains. There was very rarely an environmental hazard episode, and if it was pretty bad.
Yeah, that's true. Like the mini universe that gets stuck inside of a runabout. Yeah, that one was pretty
Yeah.
terrible. But the idea of like aliens coming down and like being like plucked from Earth to guide people. There's actually a Babylon 5 episode called "Come the Inquisitor." That is something that you should all take a look at. Of course, you have to watch Babylon 5 to know what I'm talking about. I do like how though when Gary Seven meets Roberta for the first time, he's asking her like, "Hey, do you know where your other agents are?" And her response is hilarious. They're like, "Where's 347?"
Where's 347?
348?
I think that's funny. But yeah, it's mainly concentrating on these two for the entire episode. And actually Spock and Kirk are more of like, I would say they're the enemy agents in this. It's a little the way they keep trying to figure out what's going on, and they're just interfering when they shouldn't be. Other than that, in that office, that I think with the sliding computer going in and out, there was a complaint that was going to cost a lot of money. But again, Roddenberry didn't listen to anybody, and he ordered Matt Jeffries to make it. I think it actually works with the sliding drink bar, and then the computer slides open and the bank vault door. I think that's awesome. That entire set.
I also just
And-
like, I don't know. I'm just, it's just a
You
fun
like the
episode. And
typewriter?
The typewriter and just all the knobs that Terry Garr is doing with the teleportation, and like just the fact that Gary Seven, he's like so chill, right? Not raising his voice, very down to earth, very calm, and he's crawling along a bloody rocket, and he's got his little cat with him.
Yeah. And
It's
you
such
had
a
to wonder,
silly image, but
Mhm.
like, is there but okay, obviously the cat is this, attractive woman in disguise, okay, wait, what's the real form? The cat or the woman? Is the cat pretending to be a sexy
know.
woman? Right.
You have no idea. That's the weird thing about it.
Right. The cat's either pretending to be a sexy woman, or the sexy woman is pretending to be a cat. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think it's the cat is the real version of her.
All right, you could do that. Some would say that she's actually a Thalian or an evil Thalian if you read the IDW comics or some other alien form. I think she's actually the alien form is the sexy woman. I mean, I like the line Gary says is like, well, you jealous, Isis? He asked her because of Terry Garr walking in there. So maybe they have more than just a professional relationship. What does that cat actually do besides stare at everyone and make Spock calm? Not too much. But then you have to read other things to figure out what the cat actually is more of an enforcer more than anything else.
What? Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it is what it is. It is kind of bizarre. I think that was done I don't think Roddenberry thought it out 100% to figure it out. I know. What a shock. This was actually, and I bet you could also tell this was redone about 7 times. And Art Wallace came up with an idea of something called Space Cop, and he met Gene Roddenberry. And then I know exactly. You could guess which sound effect I'm going to put in there.
I'm a space cop. A cop from the future of space.
But this is where they got that idea of like a space cop, and Gene Roddenberry had something similar, and they were on opposite ends of the country, and some people said, hey, you guys have a similar idea, you should collaborate, and they came up with this. So there's a collaboration credit for Art Wallace in this. So that's where this comes from. They both had very similar ideas about someone coming to Earth to try and guide humanity to a better way. You can see similar things in like other TV shows like the Phoenix, which was an 80s TV show. Again, I mentioned the other 2 Roddenberry shows. You could even argue that Quantum Leap is somewhat similar with people jumping everywhere to try and help guide.
I got huge Quantum Leap vibes off this. Absolutely.
Yeah. When you have like the stories inside here, they're trying to stop a bomb platform from accidentally causing World War III. I guess, Gary didn't do enough at the end, since actually World War III, and later they split it, World War III and the Eugenics War happened not too far after this, if you think about it. That's supposed to take place in the original series in 1997, 1999. They keep changing it, but it's disturbing, so it's not that far away. We already lived past this time period. Yeah, it's a somewhat simple story, and also, again, it has that back and forth quality to it. You got Gary beaming in sort of to Nassau to no one paying attention to him except for one security guard. Kirk and Spock still trying to figure out what to do, and you see them looking at Cape Canaveral. That was obviously a Paramount lot. and they have to figure out how to sabotage the rocket because the prior spies or the prior agents didn't do it. The set designers were actually pleased with the Cape Canaveral set, not counting the stock footage areas. What did you think of it? Where
No,
they
it
had
was fine.
yeah.
I think that the shooting the rodeo of the stock footage was pretty well integrated, like especially with the NASA, the separation of the rocket in orbit.
That's
I thought
actually
it was
real.
nice stuff. Oh, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's always good to see that with the stages falling away. Yeah. By the way, the cops. Did you like the cops
They
when
were
they came
fine.
on in? They were fine. One of them you should have recognized right away. I'm surprised you didn't know. You didn't know who it is?
I missed it. No.
You missed it. It's your favorite actor, Bruce Mars, otherwise known as Finnegan, with your favorite music.
No! Don't do it.
Oh, you know I am. But it's again, they have that thing where they beam everyone up to the ship, but this time they don't use bizarre time travel stuff to get them out of there. But there you go. Bruno Mars is the cop in the back, named Charlie. He doesn't have a line, and they just beam them back, and they have no idea what's going on. I guess I don't know. Would you call that typical bureaucratic inefficiency, or yeah, what was that? I don't know. Let's get out of here. Okay, and they just forget about it.
I mean, there's some quick writing in this episode. I think we can all agree on that.
Well, they're trying to mash together several ideas. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Well, let me just ask a question here. And I don't know if you did this in your opening statement. Why didn't they just do this as its own sci-fi pilot? And why did Gene Roddenbery agree to have his show hijacked for a project that was not his own?
Purpose of mission? To prevent Earth's civilization from destroying itself before it can mature into a peaceful society.
Well, it was his own project. He hijacked his own show because NBC didn't think there was enough momentum at first. And what he was trying to do was just like the other shows that had spinoffs, like Wanted Dead or Alive. He was trying to push that into this to make it Star Trek introduce it. So this was a new idea on other TV shows as well. It wasn't just Star Trek that was doing it. So he pushed that on there, and NBC kind of liked the idea, and they liked the idea of Assignment Earth. So they were thinking of doing it because they were also thinking of canceling Star Trek at the time for like the 5th and 6th time already. So they were trying to figure out what to do. Do we get rid of Star Trek? It's expensive. It's never number one. And they couldn't figure out why, other than the fact they didn't advertise it and they put it on in a death slot at times. So it's NBC's own poor thinking on that. But it wasn't really hijacked. It was an idea that Roddenberry had to sell another episode or another series, either to NBC or other TV networks, which are CBS and ABC, specifically ABC at first. So that's the idea behind this. He wanted to make something out of it. Since they saw the writing on the wall, since they kept cutting the budget, and they figured they were going to get canceled, he figured, why not try and do it? So that's where they are. That's how it came to be, so to speak. There you go. So, and that's also why it was cheaper, because I have all those clips of, things in there. Mark Daniels, for his part as director, did not like the NASA set. And there were 7 black cats, just to let you know. Each one could do slightly different things. One could come when you called them. One could, sit there and purr. One was sick, by the way, and sneezed on everyone. There are all 7 of them. How's that? I don't know what else is there in there. Would you like the idea of him, Gary Seven sabotaging this missile, or rather this rocket that's launching a platform? What did you think of that, where he beamed onto that pipe to try and stop it?
I know exactly what you're talking about, Cap. Yeah, no, I said I thought it was really cool that it was just him, a man alone, looking stylish with his little black cat. It's just such a weird image where it would be as if, I don't know,
like
a guy
a wizard
in a tuxedo with a little chihuahua was, on a battlefield or something.
Like a wizard and his familiar.
Wizard.
Yes. And his familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see all these things that they were going for. I mean, to wit, this would have been a fun American version of Doctor Who, right? where
Yeah.
there's a little bit more sex appeal, because obviously Doctor Who is always actually pretty
Hmm.
sterile, and also he's more of a thinking man's adventurer, while this guy's kind of getting more of his hands dirty. And
Hmm.
especially at the time, Doctor Who was an old beardy man. He's like more of a young, attractive sex symbol.
Hmm.
This would have had like a lot of legs. Why didn't it go anywhere?
Yeah, I guess it didn't pick up as much as they thought it would, and they just said, "Nah, we're passing," and no one else picked it up either. Also, because it was uh, Gene Roddenberry has been known as a recalcitrant kind of guy, so his reputation preceded him. It's like, "Oh, I gotta sell you this idea. Who wrote it? Oh, who? Gene Roddenberry? I'll pass," because he didn't listen. And he always would fight with executives, and his reputation began to precede him. So that's also part of the problem.
Right.
That's you know. There's also another actor in here, uh, Don Keffer or Kiefer rather, as the launch director, I believe it is. He is also as Don Hallis in It's a Good Life. He's the guy who turns into the
Oh, the Jack in the Box.
yeah. Isn't that bizarre? So, excuse me, he's a security supervisor. So he's like, he looks different. It's kind of funny. Yep, the Jack in the Box. Now, there's a big controversy on this is who is that sexy woman as the cat? There's two different things, which I find funny. Our
Go on.
book says it's Victoria Vetri, a blonde or supermodel and also a Playboy playmate of 1968, Playmate of the Year, in fact. But that's
Hey.
not who it is. It's not
Oh.
that person at all. No. In fact, that was the rumor, and it was such a good rumor that a lot of Star Trek stuff lists actress as the Black Cat Isis. It's not. It's actually an actress player named April Tatro, not Victoria Vetri. And in fact, they questioned Victoria Vetri. Was that you in that Star Trek episode? And she said, no, I never was in it. So it was this other person, April Tatro, who was paid the equivalent of $794 in 2024 dollars to appear
Hey, man,
for.
that's not that bad for 10
Right.
seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty much, but I think that's kind of humorous that they didn't have the in even a whole bunch of
Hey,
Star Trek books. Yeah.
she's still alive.
Yeah, she sure
Oh, my
is.
goodness. And she's a contortionist.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm
And
looking
here's
her
some
up now.
other names that you could hear. Barbara Babcock, that's the voice of the computer, the Beta 5 unit.
I am a beautified computer capable of analytical decisions.
How's that for an AI telling off her supervisor? I know what my job is. I know how to search things. It's also prescient at the time. But Barbara Babcock, she was Trelane's mom. So
Oh,
there
yes.
you go.
I know Trillian's parents very well.
Yeah, there you go. And that's pretty much about it. This is, if you think about it, this is an extra short episode, but as an idea, I like the idea. I think, though, Roberta Lincoln acts a little ridiculous. I mean, she does hit Gary Seven and then says to Kirk and Spock, oh, wait a minute, believe him towards the end as we get
I
that.
would
It's a
have,
little bit.
yeah, I would have appreciated it if she was more of a wacky assistant from the beginning, like kind of a Gal Friday who was kind of like devoted, as opposed
Hmm.
to someone that he was having conflict with throughout the episode. That
Right.
felt a little awkward in terms of the writing. And like also it would have been better, I think, if the Enterprise crew were a little bit more woven in, um, where they had a little bit more to do. And did I miss something? Is like McCoy doesn't have much to do of anything to do with this episode, right?
Now he just comes in and says he's like superhuman. He's talking about Gary Seven when he does an examination of him. He's like beyond perfect in his structure. And Kirk Minot said, like, an alien could do that. It would take a human and try and make them perfect so they could sort of blend in and do stuff for ulterior means. But that's about it. In fact, all the rest of the crew, Scotty has the most dialogue because he's standing in the transporter room and he's looking at stuff. That's
Right.
about it. You have Uhura there, a couple of minutes on communications. You do have Scotty, excuse me, Sulu and Chekhov for like a blip of a second. Actually, our favorite extras in the NASA room, Bill Blackburn plays as just one of the extras in their version of Mission Control. That's the guy who's like always there and like in everything, but nothing really spoken. Yeah, it was kind of a waste of the ensemble, I think. You know, and
Yeah,
we
it
get
would have been
Gary
pretty
Seven.
interesting. Go
Yeah,
on.
no. I was just saying we just get Gary Seven sabotaging the ship, but we don't really see. It's like the Star Trek characters happen to be there. So you were saying it's
Right.
a great idea. Is there enough for a pilot episode? I posed that to you, Mike. Do
What are
you
you
think there
talking
is
about? There
without?
would have been plenty of you could write more happening.
Mm-hmm.
You could do any number of things. You could have him check in with whatever master control is actually, could like not controlling him but giving him orders.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my god, speaking of which, we're burying the, I don't know, not the lead, but burying the awful connection to Star Trek history.
Are you talking about Star Trek Picard?
Yeah,
Because if you're
right.
doing that, that is pathetic. I don't know what it is it your generation or the one after that must have every question answered. It's just odd.
I'm
Did Data
cool.
really
I mean,
die? Do we should have a better death scene for him? Do I need to have every little nuance answered? I mean, that's one of my arguments against Rogue One, but now that I've seen Andor, I can live with Rogue One.
no,
But
I mean, again,
again,
I like a lot of, there are a lot of questions that should not be answered. I thought Andor was cool, just as this is how I look at Andor, or Star Wars in general, right?
mm,
Star Wars is one, two, and three is a very tight tale of World War II, right? How many different tales in World War II were there? There were the rats of Tobruk. There
mm-hmm.
were the Australians. There were the Canadians at Juno Beach. There was D-Day itself. There was the Hiroshima. There was the island hopping. Like, there are a million amazing tales from what was going on at that time. And Andor shows that it's like really interesting to explore a fictional war from a diplomatic, you know, insurgent front. Do you know what I mean? Diplomats versus insurgents.
Well,
And
yes,
like,
and a fifth column as well. Yes, in a way.
I,
Mm.
yeah, I thought that was fine. I didn't feel like, oh, this is being stupid and answering questions that don't need to be answered.
Well, like, why did you need to ask the question about who's a supervisor and who is all this stuff in Picard season 2? One of the worst anythings on TV I've ever seen. It's really a dumpster fire.
Yes, definitely the worst Star Trek. I can't think of any worse Star Trek, and that's with me hating Discovery as well.
Yeah, it's not it's one of the worst shows ever. I mean, although you could say, well, you read the IDW comic books that talk about Gary Seven. That's quite true. I did read them, but I will tell you that they handle the continuation of the story and fleshing out Gary Seven and what a supervisor is and the ideas with the beta much better than anything Picard happened to do, which reused one of the actresses who was an Irish Romulan, in fact, in from season 1 of Picard. And then you have other things like the eugenics war, where Gary Seven has an input into the eugenics wars and the designing of the Supermen and trying to save Earth on that. But in all these other stories, Gary Seven technically fails in each sense. This is one time he succeeds. So you have to wonder if the TV show did go forward. I guess he would have to fail quite a lot, or they would just make it an alternate history where different things happen in order to.
Yeah, so like they talk about that in the later seasons of Quantum Leap. I actually was a big Quantum Leap fan growing up. In the later seasons of Quantum Leap, when they were kind of running out of ideas and the ratings were getting a little stale, they would do more gimmicky episodes, like merge him with current events and like whatever. He always succeeds because he's always able to leap, and whatever he does that he succeeds is what our history is. So, as a for instance, he goes to the JFK assassination, and he like tackles John Wilkes Booth or something. Not John Wilkes Booth. Come on. Oh God, Lee Harvey Oswald. He tackles Lee Harvey Oswald, and in the original timeline, Jackie O was shot as well.
Yeah,
So by doing that, only Kennedy died.
right.
So it's like, oh, okay, there's a darker timeline than the one that we're currently in.
Yeah, but that's just, that's speculative. That's fine. I mean, Star Trek is an alternate story. It's not our history. A lot of modern Star Trek kind of forgets that. This is supposed to be an allegory to our time period, which this specific episode is trying to be. The danger of nuclear weapons, distrust of government entities at some points, the spycraft ideas. There's a little bit of weird technology issues in it. By the way, all the technology in it today we've surpassed, like the typewriter and the computers with voice activation and so forth. And I would say that pretty soon the computers will be running us. Hopefully not. But the cat technology is the same. So there's that. Then we get Kirk and Spock. They don't know what to do. That actually, I think, is one of the strongest scenes in here, when they confront at the end Gary Seven in his office, and Spock says, "This is too emotional. You'll just have to make a decision and go with your gut."
Without facts, the decision cannot be made logically. You must rely on your human intuition.
Very unlogic-like, but logic-like to determine what to do next. That's kind of
Well, hey, just like in Star Trek 4, you're gonna have to guess.
That's exactly right. And luckily, as may all your guesses be right, as McCoy says. This is it. They made a good guess, and allowing Gary Seven to destroy the weapons platform at the right height. It just happens to be at the right height of where they were supposed to be at the end. That's basically the end of the story, and it's the idea to launch a story that never happened. Again, I recommend you read the other things, but that's basically it. That's the entire story, unless there's something else that I don't think there's anything else really to talk about this, unless there's something specific you want to hit on.
No, we can wrap this up. I got a theory about the expenses here.
All right, but before we do that, let me just again, Robert Lansing was chosen as Gary Seven, and to answer the poll question that I posted there, obviously it was not Lightning McQueen the car, and nor was it Steve McQueen, who was in Wanted Dead or Alive, but it was Lloyd Bridges.
Who looks just like Robert Lansing.
Yes, Lansing. Yes, he does.
Lansing.
But Lloyd Bridges was asked to be in there. He was in this TV show called Sea Hunt as Frogman Jim, and he actually politely turned Roddenberry down. But that was actually one of the original ideas for Gary Seven. But I like Robert Lansing. He was a good bit part, or actually a character actor throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. He's in various things. We already told you what Terry Garr is. She went on to bigger and better things in comedy shows. Her big roles like Tootsie and Young Frankenstein. And she's always been a good comedic actor. When they hired her for this role, they said, "Can you act like you're running late?" And she said, "Well, I'm always running late, so that's not a problem." So I think that's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, her big complaint was the skirts. But that's basically it. I guess we should just come to how much money this cost, and then we can give our final ratings and then talk about what we're doing coming up soon. So, Mike.
Okay.
Here we are. It was 7 days.
We got...
7 days of shooting, 1 day over budget in 1968. How much do you think it is?
Okay. A lot of special effects. You throw in a cat. You throw in some young, attractive actors. You throw in the computers. Oh, the stock footage, I guess I didn't spend $193,000.
Wow. I'm going to say you win, Mike.
What?
Yeah, it's $193,495.
Get out of here.
No, that's exactly what it is. Look at that,
It's the first time.
Yes,
it's the closest. Put it in the books.
Yeah,
Whoa.
You didn't even count the sonic screwdriver. So $193,495. is the equivalent of $1,787,410.06 in 2025. That's how much it is.
Hello.
So that's great. Anyway, like I said, they were doing this also. Morale was low on set, believe it or not, because they didn't know if they were going to get picked up or not. And that's where we have our next thing coming up to Joe Trimble, a super fan who later saved Star Trek with Gene Roddenberry, of course. But getting to that's coming up for season 3. Here we are. At the end, Mike, what would be your super scientific rating on a 1 to 10 scale on this episode?
Okay, let me just couch this here. 1, obviously this is ridiculous. 2, obviously it's not a Star Trek episode. But I've always been a person who enjoys peeking into other tales, outside of what we have. Like, God, this is such a deep cut, but I really liked Halloween Ends, which was like not a Michael Myers movie. Michael Myers is in it, but it's about a whole new villain. I like it when things are a little brave with their storytelling. I like Gary Seven. I like his wacky assistant. I like his cat. I like his adventures. I think the writing is super weak to get the Enterprise there and super janky to try to keep them involved. But Captain, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10.
Wow, that's a pretty high praise there, Mike. I will not give it an 8 out of 10. In fact, I won't even give it a 9 or a 10 or a 7 or a 6.
Oh, come on.
I will give it
a 5.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I really don't like this episode.
What?
I really don't like it.
Why? You've said nothing bad about it the entire time. Why?
I'm giving it a 5 out of 10 because of the weak writing, the lack of it actually being a Star Trek episode. I wanted more with Gary Seven. I wanted more with Roberta Lincoln. I thought it could have had something better. I don't know. It just didn't hit it for me. So 5. I'll tell you what. I'll throw you one. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. But
no, don't. Not on my account. I thought you were about to. I misunderstood. I thought you were going to give it a 4.
No, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about giving it a 4. But this is not one of my favorites of season 2. I will tell you that much. To me, this is a lackluster way to end on season 2. They didn't have series or season finales like we do now. This is just you'd have to wait to see if they'd be picked up for next season. But I'm going to give it. I'll tell you what. I'm going to give it a 6. Now that I think about it, 6 is fine. The acting is okay. The story is weak, but it does have Finnegan, so that's a positive. And you can never have too much Finnegan, can you, Mike? No? And I kind of like the way they...
not comment.
You don't have to. I also do like the fact that the way they remade the M5 computer from the Ultimate Computer into Beta 5, although to me it was kind of obvious what it is. To me, I think the Ultimate Computer blows this out of the water, not just because it's a crazy computer. But I do like portions of it. I just think it could have been stronger. And that's basically our feelings on it. And that is the end of season 2, Mike. So you know what that means. We're going to have to pick our top 5 and bottom 5 episodes of season 2. And we'll do a special episode of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit that bell notification. And don't forget to purchase a t-shirt in our TeePublic t-shirt store. Mike, is there anything else you want to add to this that's coming up, or any ideas that we have where we're going on Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies?
Put it on the books. I'm done. I've told Captain there will be mutiny. And by mutiny, I just mean I will not be following orders until we have a video episode of the Captain and I playing video games and talking about Star Trek in Stream of Conscious. Not about an episode. We're going to do what the kids do. We're going to watch one of us play some video games. The camera's going to watch us playing video games. We're going to comment. We're going to talk Trek. We're going to talk perhaps about the law. We're going to make our dream ships. It'll be great. You're going to see our faces, and that's the double truth, Ruth. All right? We've been doing this for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And now you get to see the reveal.
Well, you see me, and we've seen you. We've seen you running, and you've seen me at Comic-Con. But sure, we could see us together. But if you don't follow orders, Mike, I'm going to send you to the agony booth. That aside, Well, I hope you've enjoyed season 2. And I had to tell you, at the time in real life in 1968, they didn't know if there was going to be a season 3. But spoilers, there is a season 3. It was from a giant fan write in, but we can come to that when we talk a little bit about season 3 when we eventually get to it. Right now, this is right before the July 4th holiday in 2025. So, Mike, I hope you have a good July 4th holiday. And
God bless America.
Yep, everybody and everyone as well. And so, everyone, let's get ready for season 3. Mike, it's as always, it's great to have a great voyage with you, and we'll talk about our top and bottom 5 coming up, as well as seeing us play video games. Yes, I promise we'll set it up somehow so we can watch us play games and we can talk about Trek, and we'll see that in all upcoming episodes of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. And as always, Mike, live long and prosper, and see you out there.
Small mole on left shoulder. Somewhat larger star-shaped mark on her.
Watch it. Okay, I'll bite.
Giggity.